15 and 14. Oh my god. Okay, all right. Let me just say as much about 15 and 14. I was as you guys know, in episode 13, I was ranting about Suzaku being someone responsible for Shirley's death. And I guys want you to know that I don't blame Suzaku for all of it, okay? I'm just saying that the story, as you're going to see, doesn't really care about that. It's really frustrating. I have a whole rant that I wrote about for both Cornelia and Shirley and how both their characters were fudged so hard by this plot. It's unbelievable. Like Cornelia and Shirley don't need Lelouch or Guilford because the plot already fudges them. That's how bad their character were handled in this anime, specifically R2, even R1 honestly for Shirley, but at least R1 for Cornelia was really good. And I'll explain why. But again, I have a rant coming out, probably an article or a video at some point in the future. But I was just like, what the fudge? Like, I don't know what it is, but I really watched the episode with more a closer look at some stuff. I was thinking, wait a minute, this makes no sense. Like, how did this happen? Like, oh my god. The fact that they had to make Oz Reflection retcon some of this stuff just shows you that the people who wrote this anime, at least this part of it, were kind of confused what to do. But is what it is. Vito's talking to Cornelia, and what he says to her makes absolutely no goddamn sense. And I just want to throw out why. He says, "You gave it everything to try to prove Yuffie's innocence." So my question is, what the fudge happened between R1 and R2? Or better, R1 to turn 12. Now I know in Oz Reflection, Cornelia gets involved with Orpheus, and they do some things, I guess. I haven't read the full manga. No one has. It ain't translated. And he helps her find the Geass Order. And that's there's a lot of stuff there. But there's a lot of questions I have to get answered. Maybe the manga has the answers. But then again, though, the anime should have just done it on its own. We shouldn't need a manga to explain this. Because this is very important. Cornelia is trying to hunt down the Geass Order for some reason. Because she thinks they're responsible for killing Yuffie, even though they're not responsible. And she knows that because she tells everyone in Turn 19 that Lelouch used Geass on her. And used Geass on Yuffie.
Of course. He used Geass to control his own sister Euphemia. He made her slaughter the 11s in the special zone. Yuffie was just a girl. Zero was in control.
So she's not stupid. She knows she knows who used Geass on her. Does she think that V2 gave Lelouch the Geass power to him? Because he didn't. I don't know. Like, how would destroying V2 even avenge Yuffie's death? If he's trying to clear her of her crimes, what's the plan to do that? Destroying Geass doesn't save Yuffie or make anyone forget what she did. Is she going to bring to light that Geass was the reason for it? So make headlines or something? So then why would you just throw the evidence for it? It doesn't the more you wrap your mind around it, Cornelia, what she's doing in this scene to me makes no goddamn sense. And they don't explain why she had to give everything to save to prove Euphemia's innocence. Why would she have to? What, she went to Charles and she said, listen, Yuffie didn't do this. And Charles like, okay, so what? So should she lose her line to the throne, her privileges, and so what if she did? Why'd she run away? Why didn't Guilford join her?
Princess, where are you now?
What the hell happened? It's like Cornelia was such a big character in the last season, and here she's like a joke. Like a literal joke. Like when she gets captured later on in the story by the Black Knights, she's just sitting in the Ikaruga. You could have any number of conversations with Lelouch talking to her about giving things, and they talk I think once in a story, and that's it. She just sits in the Ikaruga because they're like, I don't know what to do with Cornelia. I don't know either. We'll just have her in. What we do? Let's not have her for 12 episodes. Then we'll bring her back, and then we'll have her captured, and I guess that's it. And during the whole conflict against Zero, we'll have her injured so she can't partake in it, because seeing Cornelia in a new version of her Gloucester with a flying enabled version, God forbid we see something cool and see her in battle because it's just too much, right? right? Cornelia can't be the antagonist in the story anymore because Schneisel is. So we can't have Cornelia in the story, but we want to have her in the story. So what do? We do nothing with her. It's so annoying because like why? Why would you do this? Just give her something to do that makes sense and has her exploring her character on some level. I know I'm harping on this for a while, but this is just one aspect of the story. I'm just like, God dang it, Cornelia deserves so much better. And that outfit is just like, it just adds to my whole theory that they turned Cornelia to this proud, amazing, awesome, use all the adjectives you want, antagonist of R1, and turn to a side fan service character who's like, I get everything to save Yuffie. Why'd you do that? Why would you go after V2? He has nothing to do with anything. Who told you about this besides Orpheus? How'd you learn about Geass? Did you even know Geass existed? Like, there's so many layers to this, and they never explore in the show. And I know Oz Reflection has certain things they explain about it, but it's a huge part of the story, and it's horribly explained. And it ruins her character. Cornelia was a wasted person in this story. So if Cornelia wants to get revenge for Yuffie, right? For the Geass Order, because they did what happened to Yuffie, even though, again, they had nothing to do with each other, okay? V2 is not a good person, but he has nothing to do with what happened to Cornelia, or to Yuffie. When she finds that Lelouch is still alive, why does she not want to kill him? She never tells Schneider once, look, I want to kill Lelouch because, he killed Yuffie, and he used Geass on her too. Why does she not want to pursue that? It's so strange how this woman was so... that she killed everyone in the Geass Order. She threatened Bartley. She threw a knife at V2's head. But all of a sudden, now she wants to be like, yeah, whatever. There's the person who caused all my damages, so I'm not going to go after him. It's fine. We're okay. I was even thinking, like, why doesn't she just, I don't know, break through Ikaruga and try to kill Lelouch? Instead of running off the ship, for some reason, why not go... deeper into shit to find Lelouch and kill him. That would have been kind of scary, right? She's wandering around the ship. They're like, oh, where's Cornelia? Like, oh god, where's Lelouch? And they have to stop her from killing him. That would have been kind of cool, But no, it doesn't happen. Instead, she just runs off, and Schneisel comes. He goes, oh, Schneisel, you're here. And it's like, Cornelia's motivation in the story are all over the goddamn place. And it's so frustrating, too, because I like her character a lot, and they totally ruined it. I don't know. One thing I mentioned in like a past stream was that she doesn't know. She knows Lucia is Zero, and it has no relevance in the story. And I think the reason is because they thought Zero was killed, and so who cares if she knew his identity? It doesn't matter. And when he comes back, it's supposed to be a different Zero. So again, it doesn't matter if she knows if he is. It doesn't matter if she knows who he is or not. So they kind of made that one important element to her character, or one piece of knowledge he had, almost irrelevant in the story. Basically, in a nutshell, Cornelia deserved better, and this whole thing, it just makes me so angry. But Cornelia appears and blasts the weakness of of V2's Siegfried. How'd she know the weakness? No idea. How'd she read the Nightmare Frame in 2 minutes to make it look like some kind of badass war machine? No idea. I guess Cornelia is also an engineer. I thought she was a warrior, but I guess she also was an engineer too. Maybe she spent enough time with Lloyd and learned how to do this sort of thing. But she turned an average Akatsuki into like some kind of war machine. And they both destroy V2. He loses his shields. And Lelouch and Cornelius destroy the legacy of Geass through killing V2, I guess. Is Yuffie saved at this point? Or not saved? Is her reputation restored? Did she prove her innocence? No, nothing of that sort happened. They just killed V2. Congratulations, guys, you killed V2. Yuffie is still dead. People still think it's her fault for everything that happened, and Cornelia is still disgraced. Or she's disgraced. Good job, everyone. No one cares. Oh, Ryan Johnson. Oh, Ryan Johnson. Yeah, he subverting our expectations. Jesus. Okay. Yeah, that's what the times was bad. Pretty much, yeah. Cornelia still might have worked if the writers showed she didn't blame Lelouch, just the power that corrupted him. But yeah, she did blame Lelouch, though. That's the problem. She tried to, like, oh my god, there's like so much more I can say. She literally in the last episode, in 24 of last season, she said, like, I'm going to kill you, Lelouch. Like, your life is mine. How did she go from, I want to murder Lelouch as soon as I can, to, it's the Geass's fault, not his? Like, when did this mind shift happen, She was on the same insane level as Nina for revenge. That's where they juxtapose the two of them in that one part where Nina says, Yuffie, and then Cornelia says, "will be avenged."
Zero, Princess Euphemia
Will be avenged!
There's a reason why they juxtapose those two characters saying those lines, because they both were so bloodlust to kill Lelouch. How does Cornelia go from like 1 year saying I want to kill him to next year going, yeah, it was Geass's fault, not him? No, Lelouch, for the most part, I mean, Lelouch did consciously use Geass on Yuffie. Now, granted, what happened with the whole event, but still, there was some level of Lelouch being careless with the Geass power. So, and look, if Cornelia wanted to get revenge for Geass because of what happened to Euphemia, then kill C2. She's the one that gave Lelouch the Geass power. Her power predates everything. Predates Britannia. She's like over 700 years old, I think. It's hard to say. We don't know for sure. But her Geass power is way older than V2's. Okay, it's C2's fault, if anything, for all this for what happened here, not V2's. That's why Cornelia looks so stupid. She should have went after C2. See, what should have happened was Cornelia should have joined the OSI and working under Charles to find C2. That's what should have happened in the story, not Valletta. Or if you want to have Valletta in the story, she's a side character. It boggles my mind because she should go after C2 and the OSI was going after C2. You see, they all have the same goals. They should have worked together. Gosh darn it. Fairness to the writers had to cut out a lot of their plans for soft reboots. They really only had 6 episodes to continue the story. Yeah, because of I think it was 1 through 3 or 4 all soft reboot. Yeah, but you didn't have to have 5 or 12. You could have not had those. That's the problem. I don't disagree with that, but I'll say one thing about this point. If you only have 16 episodes to tell your story, then you better pick one thing and stick to the one thing. Either it's the Ragnarok connection, that's the entire story, with Zero Requiem at the end, or it's Schneider with Zero Requiem. But you couldn't have all 3 things in the story. And also, if you're going to make the story, if you only have 16 episodes, don't add more characters and more aspects to it. I like the part of the Chinese Federation, but you didn't have to include that if you didn't have much time to devote to a story. So, at one end, I'm like, I kind of feel bad. But at I'm like, no, I don't, because you didn't have to do it this way. So I mixed feelings. But I see your point. Look, we know that R2 was a rush job, right? No one's denying that. That's not the problem. It's that what they do with their time, that's the problem. There are plenty of good anime that have 12 episodes. They tell really complete stories. The fuck am I saying? They tell stories that are concise, to the point, and you walk away with a lot of information despite it being a very short anime, like Baccano. Or 91 Days, or I believe Madoka Magica. Is that one 12 episodes? I'm pretty sure it's that. So you can get it done, but you have to narrow the scope. Don't make it larger. That's the problem with R2. It's too big. They should have worked together. How cool that would have been if Cornelia and Lelouch joined forces at the end of the series. That would have been so cool. And then we get to possibly, and I'm not being hyperbolic here, possibly one of the worst scenes in the entire show. So he comes downstairs, or I'm not downstairs, I'm not sure where this is actually in the Ikaruga, and he finds Cornelia. By the way, this way they have her tied up is very disgraceful, and this thing has been memed and used in fun fan art. I'll just put it like that. This is basically another Cornelia rant. This is like part 2 from last week's. So when these two talk, right, they could talk about literally anything. Let's just put things into perspective, right? They have not seen each other in probably over a year, however long that whole time between R1 and R2. And Lelouch was gunning for her for an entire season. And Cornelia wanted to kill him at the end of R1. So naturally, you would think they'd have lots to discuss. No, nothing. He just says, you use a Sutherland to rescue her. And she says, what do you plan to do with Geass power? And he said, I'm going to change the world for my sister. And she's like, how dare you? And that's it. That's the entire conversation. That's the only time in this show that Lelouch and Cornelia have any kind of interaction at all. The two basically enemies, rivals in the entire last season have one conversation, and it's the dumbest conversation because there are so many questions. that anyone with half a brain would ask, and Lelouch would ask these questions if the writers were thought about it for more than 2 seconds here, okay? When Cornelia says, "What do you plan to do with Geass power?" Here's what Lelouch should have said. Okay, 1, how do you know about Geass power in general? Who told you? 2, how do you know I have Geass power? It's like these aren't these like and 3, how did you find the Geass Order? We had to go through like Rollo and Jeremiah to find this place, and you found it on your own, and you know about Geass, and you know I have a Geass power. Those are 3 very big plot crucial elements that are not even discussed here at all. And given the information we know about how Cornelia found out about the Geass Order, that could have been crucial to know about. The Glinda Knights, Orpheus, and Aldrin. Orpheus, not Aldrin, just Orpheus. Now, obviously, Outer Reflection didn't exist back then. But the problem with this is that they don't even set it up. Like, if you even decent run, you could have had Cornelia say, "Listen, there were some people who were revolting against the Empire, a terrorist organization, and one of them gave me the information." And that's it. You can be very vague about it. That would set up Oz the Reflection to introduce Orpheus and explain the Geass situation to her. And you could have came with some other reason, like how she found out about the Geass power. You could even say theoretically that Charles told me, and I would have bought it. But nothing. They don't say anything in this conversation about how she knows the information, and Lelouch doesn't even care. He doesn't care, and that's what's it's so frustrating because these are 2 very important characters, especially Lelouch, and obviously Cornelia is important too. And like this what's the point of this exactly? So now Cornelia's being a prisoner for the rest of the episode until the rest of the show until 19. Then she goes with Schneisel for a little bit. Then she gets wounded by Schneisel, and then she's off for the rest of the show until the very end to stop Lelouch or something. That's it. That's all we get from this. What a waste on so many levels. And the writing was just really bad here because it made both characters look like complete idiots. You can't just have Cornelia and Lelouch talk about something for the first time, and both of them be like, "Yeah, of course you would know." What do you mean, of course, Cornelia would know about Geass? They never discussed it. She had no knowledge. The only person in the royal family who had any knowledge of Geass, from what I know, was Schneisel, because he found out about the Code R project, and I believe he was doing other stuff as well in the story. Cornelia never investigated Geass, had no knowledge of its existence. She wasn't even dealing with the fact that Jeremiah or Valletta had memory issues. She had nothing to do with that. She wasn't even remotely curious as to why Suzaku had freakouts and all. She just said, "Oh, a soldier who actually that is no place in my military or whatever." She never once questioned it or sought it out at all. So the fact that they gave her this information with no explanation of how she got it, and Lelouch doesn't even question it, is why this is one of the worst scenes in the whole story. It's a couple seconds, but my goodness, it just wow. This could have been easily rectified by simple scenes, dialogue, anything, and instead they had no setup for it. So it's very frustrating that Cornelia continued in the story to be absolutely worthless. They should have just killed her at the end of R1. Let's just be frank here. She should have just died instead of her being captured by Lelouch. She just gets killed. Maybe when Jeremiah cuts across, he hits her by accident, or maybe Lelouch just kills her and moves on. Because what point did she have in this story? Like none. Anyway, let's move on now, and I'm done ranting about Cornelia for now. I do want to do a video discussing how they could have fixed her character, because there were some easy things to do, and the show took almost no effort to try. But whatever. To be fair for the writer, they had a lot of characters to deal with, so pushing Cornelia to silent made sense. Cornelia was meant to be a supporting antagonist. She was even an antagonist in the story. She did absolutely nothing in the story. You can't even call her an antagonist because she doesn't antagonize Lelouch. She literally helped him fight against V2, and then that's it. That's her whole role in the story. Then she tried to take out Schneisel, but it made no sense. If she had this change of heart that she was against Britannian philosophy and their whole way of doing things, then they should have explained that in the story, when that change happened. Was it because of Geass? Is that why she hates Charles? Did she know Charles even dealt with Geass? I'm not saying you had to give her a lot of time, but you didn't give her any time. So when she does stuff in the story, there's no rhyme or reason for it. That's the problem with it. You can't just say okay, I'm going to give her a bunch of plot information without explaining where it came from, because we have to get her up to speed. But we don't show you how she came up to speed. We don't show you why she had change of opinion on Britannian rule. Why would she not be okay with Schneisel blowing people up with the flare warheads? She was okay with pretending doing other awful things in the military. She was in the military for a long time. She's been conquering nations for a very long time. She has no issues killing lots of people. So, what is about Schneider's plan that went against her own philosophy? Even her quote when she said, conquering people isn't peace or something. I think what she said, something of that nature.
Insane? We only agreed to use them against Lelouch. This will destroy the world. You're trying to control people through fear.
In the end, if we have to sacrifice 1 or 2 billion lives to achieve a state of permanent peace...
You're wrong. Peace attained by force is not peace.
Yeah, but isn't that what you were supporting for years? So why do you not support it anymore? What changed exactly? And she didn't really explain it. The story wants you to do it for them. That's the problem. You can have a character get sidelined, even though I think that's ridiculous considering how awesome Cornelia is. But fine, sideline her. But you still have to explain how we got to this point, where Cornelia is going, something like that. Her arc is basically incomplete. Even Resurrection, it was still incomplete. It was just really frustrating stuff. I can't defend the writers here. It was an awful decision the way they handled her. This character was wasted. Plus, Lelouch could have learned about Orpheus, the Peace Mark, another Geass user in another organization, and he hates Britannia. Exactly. There was you could have just hinted the organization existed. You didn't have to even say their names. Like, let's say, I love stories where they'll open up a character or create a character and they kind of leave it open ended for something else to happen. Like in Static Shock, they made a robot called Zeta, I believe. I think it was Static Shock. I think it was Static Shock or Bambi, one of those stories. And there's a thing called Zeta. And Zeta could turn to different. It had the ability to clone, not clone. It didn't clone. It could take the appearance of any other human being. It was obviously cybernetics and stuff. And they made a whole show called the Zeta Project. That was kind of cool. They introduced a character and they gave it a spin-off story. Or in Doctor Who, they made Torchwood, which was based on something happened in the story with Russell T Davis's thing, or the Sarah Jane Chronicles. They did a good job of in those cases where you open the door for something and then you expand on it. There was no open the door here. It was just yeah, of course Cornelia knows about Geass. Of course she knows I have Geass. Of course. Why would she not know that? No, it's not like we didn't tell her earlier. We did tell her. You just didn't see it on screen, So, F you, I guess. So stupid. Charles is the main antagonist, but he wasn't involved in the plot that much in R1, so they had to get Cornelia out of the way to give him focus. They could have worked together. As I said before, you could have had Charles working the OSI with Cornelia could have been the OSI instead of Valletta working with Charles. That's all you had to do. The fact that Valletta got more character and screen time than Cornelia is insane. They took a minor character like Valletta, who, no offense to her, I don't care as much as Cornelia, and they gave Valletta more time on screen because she had some kind of relationship with Ogie. So what? They could have had Guilford and Cornelia developed as a couple if you wanted to go that route. So stupid. I think Cornelia first heard about Geass from Zaku at the end of R1. Did she? I you know what? Here, let's find out.
Kamine Island. That's where Zero's headed. Any more than that? It's no use. I can't remember.
Geass.
Okay, so he says out loud Geass. So I will agree that he said Geass out loud to Cornelia. So I guess that's how they're going to retcon that she learned about it. But here's the important part, though. Even if Suzaku told her, said the word Geass, right? Well, let's say that was the case. Lelouch wasn't there at that point. He already left. So he should still be wondering how she learned about it. And Cornelia could say, Suzaku told me. So there you go. The story had an answer. It didn't even go to it. But again, you still have to explain, okay, one, Cornelia has to remember what Suzaku said, right? He said it once, and he wasn't even talking to her directly. He was saying out loud. So she recovers from the hospital maybe weeks later, and she remembers Geass. But where she go from there? You still have to explain how we get there, or how she knew that Geass was a power. All she learned from Suzaku was that there's something called Geass. That's it. Very vague. You can't say because of that vague mention for Suzaku, therefore Cornelia somehow learned what it was. That's not good enough. And the worst part is I had to go back and find that because I don't remember that scene. It wasn't very obvious. You can't have scenes like that contain important information and throw a little subtle hints there. You can't do that. It's not the good way to tell your story. So I see your point there. It's not good enough though. Our two better Cornelia was either killed in the Black Rebellion or her subplot bringing down the whole Geass Order could be its own series. Probably trained human versus superhumans. Yeah, they didn't really do much with it. Something like that. When you said about Charles and Cornelia working together, it would be awesome. Such a shame they never got seen together. Yeah, like wouldn't it be cool if like Cornelia like turns on her monitor and then she's talking to Charles and Charles like, "How are you progressing, getting C2?" And Cornelia's like, "This will stop Geass, right?" Of course it'll stop Geass. Obviously, Cornelia. And C2 gave Lelouch his Geass power. We must stop her. I know you're angry with Lelouch, but work with me here to get him to bring C2, and I will help you and clear you for his name and all that fun stuff. And Cornelia's like, and Cornelia says, "You promise?" "Of course I promise. That's what we're going to do." In detail, we know Charles is using her grief against her to manipulate her. That would have been so good. Why would you put Valletta in the situation? No one cared about Valletta. She was a random, no offense, a random woman, a Britannian officer who had a love relationship with Ogi after being like concussed and then having memory issues. I mean, she's attractive looking. That's it. No offense to Valletta. I don't hate her character. Well, I kind of do. I go back and forth, but she's not my favorite. Not even close. And she didn't get as much development as Cornelia did, but she gets more episodes, or yeah, more screen time than Cornelia did in the story. What the fudge? Goes something like Cornelia. It's no use. I can't remember Sulaku Geass. It's vague but possible. Yeah, it's like it's not good. Like you gotta really explain it. Yeah, I just checked it too. This is kind of old, but yeah, I did check it. So Zog Cornelia could have had scenes together. He could have cleared Yuffie's name and worked for the Emperor, who had Geass. Cornelia could have called him out. You never loved Yuffie. There were so many like things they could have done. Cornelia had like, imagine if Cornelia worked with Lelouch and they both led the Black Knights together in some weird twist to stop the Ragnarok connection. How cool would that have been to have Cornelia on Lelouch's side, or they're equal partnerships that are both leading the Black Knights. So Cornelia takes over a lot of the operations, so Lelouch doesn't have to deal with them. That would be kind of cool. And then Guilford joins them too because, you know, he wants to be with Cornelia. So you have like Toto and Guilford working together, and Cornelia and Lelouch are in the battlefield leading the troops. That would have been so cool. But no, we can't get that. We just can't get that crap. If Guilford sees Lelouch as Cornelia, does that mean Guilford would fall in love with Lelouch? Oh, yeah, I guess so. Weird.